Hello! You're going to be firing a kiln at Camp House Kramer or Ginling Hilltop Camp. This is what you need to do. Otherwise, it'll get too hot and it'll do an automatic shut off. Alright, so in addition to making sure that the doors are open throughout the firing, you also need to make sure the area around the kiln is clear with no debris. Sweep that out first if you are able to. These right here, these are the peepholes. You can look into the kiln one at a time and pull this out and then put it back in. For most of our low firing purposes, you're going to leave those peepholes in. You're not even really going to worry about them, but I do think it's important to know what they are for. Okay, over here we have the electronic kiln sitter. So this, if you set it correctly, will be able to fire your pieces to whatever cone setting you want. For most of our stuff at Hilltop and at Kramer, we do low fire. So low fire is between cone 04 and 05. Very different than cone 5 versus cone 10. You want to keep it on 04 or 05. Okay, so when you're going to begin your kiln, you're going to shut it, and it has an open top like this. Shut it, and then this needs to be on the first hinge, and that's the way it should be closed. So once it's closed and it's fully loaded, you are going to start it. So since you're not going to be doing anything very complicated and you won't need to make a kiln like timing system or a ramping system, I think it's best to just go ahead and use the cone fire method that they have on the side. So the first thing you're going to do is, after you turn it on, you're going to just, so this has just been plugged in, and so you're going to just hit cone fire. So it's complete cone fire. Okay, or stop, and then cone fire. So here it has gone to preheat. Preheat is how many hours you want it to sit at about 200 to 300 degrees before the whole kiln starts to go up to 1800, which is about what cone 05 is. Okay, so when you preheat, if you're doing something that requires the clay to be dried out before you are firing it, that's what the preheat is for. So let's say your campers have just made a bunch of stuff out of clay and you're trying to fire it for the first time. That is called a bisque fire, and so you're going to preheat for 15 hours. Okay, let's say that you're not going to, and then hit enter. So then you have the option of setting your cone. So you can set it to cone 04 or 05, or let's just clear it out, press 000, 05, and then enter. Cone 04, there you go. Alright, speed. Speed is how fast the kiln is going to reach its temperature. So if you want it to go quickly, you're going to hit medium. Unless you're doing something that would require a really fast turnaround, you should not use the fast cone firing. Just use the slower and the medium. So for a bisque fire, I recommend you use the slow firing. So hit slow, and you'll see it come up on that. Alright, then hit enter and hold. Hold is how long it's going to stay at the top heat when it is when it has reached the temperature. Okay, so hold is how long it's going to stay at that top temperature. So for example, just to be safe, 2 hours at hold temperature, which is the highest temperature that it's going to reach. So then you hit enter. Alright, now you would hit start, and now it says on. And you'll hear it going on because you're going to hear like a series of clicks, and every time it clicks, that's the temperature starting to raise. Okay, so that is how to do a bisque fire. This is going to take approximately, since you did slow, it's going to take 12 hours, because that's like 12 bars right there. And then plus it's going to take the 15 hours of the hold time, where it's just going to sit at 300 degrees drying out your clay really slowly before it even starts to go beyond 300 degrees. Okay, so now you are going to want to try to do a glaze fire. Okay, a glaze fire is the same thing. Cone fire, you hit cone fire, preheat. This time, because it's a glaze fire, you don't need to preheat it at all. So you put it on medium. Glaze fire, you can fire a little bit more quickly because it's already, all the pieces in there have already reached 1800 degrees during the bisque firing. So you hit medium, preheat 0, enter, and then cone. For a glaze fire, I think it's a better idea to go cone 04 than 05, just because that's a little hotter than it calls for, which is going to ensure that the whole glaze melts nicely over whatever it's glazing. 04, enter. And then you're going to do speed. You can choose between slow or medium. For a glaze fire, you can choose medium. And then enter. Hold. This time, you're going to do a hold for 4 hours. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily important to go that long, but it works really well when I've done it, so why fix something that's not broken? All right, then enter. Now, you're going to hit start, and there you go with your glaze firing. All right, let's say the whole thing is done. You have the temperature being read out right here. The only time that you can open up the kiln after it's fired is when the kiln has gotten lower than 300 degrees. You'll see the temperature readout right here. So currently it's 75 degrees in there. That's because it hasn't fired. But after it has fired, you'll see it going from 18 to 17 to 16 and so on until it hits 300. You can't open the kiln until it hits 300 because it'll shock all of the pieces that are in there and it'll break everything in there. So don't open it before 300. And that's it.